there.
All right. So my first question is going to be, what is your biggest accomplishment in your life?
In my life as a player or just in life in general?
Both. Go
Both.
ahead.
Okay. So let me do this. So you see these, right? Let me take one of these
Yeah, I
off.
see those.
All right. This right here is the biggest accomplishment for my playing career.
Special teams player of the year. I hear you.
Yes, sir. So 2012, obviously, that was the year. That was my only year I got to play in the Arena League or the AIF. Kind of the Tier 1A Arena League. Offshoot of the Arena League. And we basically we were the California Eagles, the team which signed me. And some background about that, I was on the SaberCats for a little bit back in 2010, and then they basically waived me, right before the season started back in 2011. Then the Stockton Wolves basically called me out, because they saw my trial footage from the combine, the training camp from the SaberCats the next year, right? And they saw my effort, but ultimately it was down to me and five other guys, and I made the final three, and they said, keep working, come back next year. Then finally, the California Eagles started back and the Eagles basically were the Wolves, and they're rebranded as the Eagles under new ownership. And so basically, then they call me to work out. Fortunately for me, one of the coaches from the SaberCats kind of camp / tryouts combine, whichever phase we're talking about, Coach Pappin, who also played in the AFL, he's a legend. He was there, and then he basically it was a godsend for me because they were able to run all the different types of kind of combinations of routes, right? Of kind of like go crosses, digs, slants,
Yeah.
up the middle, which is good for me as a slot. And also kind of when I made the team, it was like it was such a crowning achievement because like when you get offered that contract, you're getting paid to play, and obviously it wasn't the same amount of money you're going to make when you play in the NFL, right? But
Yeah.
you're just like, I did it, and to kind of caveat that, obviously top that off, with kind of making the Western Conference Championship, winning the Western Conference Championship or being the Western Conference champions, and then making the AIF Championship game that same year, and then also being named the league Special Teams Player of the Year. I mean, I can't. I still can't put it into words, what it means. It still feels kind of surreal anytime I talk about it. So that was my greatest accomplishment as a player. And obviously for me, being the first ever player of Pakistani American descent to play in the AFL, the only other player of Pakistani descent to play in the NFL and professionally who played in the NFL was Jabran Hamdan, who actually congratulated my retire last year. It was obviously great, kind of to have that representation there. But I mean, obviously, football has nothing to do. I mean, race is one thing, but you make it in based on your ability. You either can play or you can't. So there's no that's pretty much the bottom line.
Hey,
Um,
you're a true inspiration, though. I mean, all those kids, man, they're looking up to you. Like, hey, I want to be this guy. I want to be the next big thing.
100%, 100%. I appreciate you saying that. I'm really grateful for you saying that, brother, because to hear that from you, obviously, also a fellow athlete, it means a lot. Because obviously, I do have a lot of kids following me. Obviously, kids like who are relatively same age as you. I mean, kind of still in that kind of college phase, JUCO phase, and some who are actually back in high school, who follow me, they ask me for advice on kind of like different kind of pointers about training, workouts, and career guidance as a player. It means a lot. I really appreciate that. And now obviously for my life accomplishment, man, that's now I got to think about that because oh man, man. I guess probably finishing my master's degree in 2017 because after this ring, basically my mom's like, you need to get a real job. You need to like grow up, right? I mean, like, at this point I played 5 years straight. I played San City College in '08, Westview College in '09, the SaberCats, trial conditioning 2010, the Stockton Wolves 2011, right? And now finally the Eagles 2012, right? And basically with that, I mean, my knees, my body had taken such a beating, just because obviously the indoor game is much more physical than kind of the outdoor game in the sense that it's a smaller space. The hits, it's not just you hitting the turf. There's a wall, right? And I mean, you're not getting paid, like I said, the same amount of money you're getting paid to play in the NFL. You're not a millionaire superstar, right? And so my mom was like, "You need to get a real job." So I finally decided. I found that I was able to take my credits and based from JUCO and transfer that to Cal State East Bay, and finish my bachelor's degree, then eventually finish my master's degree, and find my new career in IT consulting. So I think that's probably my greatest accomplishment in life outside of football.
So, what made you want to become, or what inspired you to start this podcast?
What inspired me to start this podcast, and that's also another great question. I appreciate that. It was pretty much to kind of just give a platform, right, to everyone whose stories may
Yeah.
not be as widely known, right? Obviously, with me, there's a lot of teammates who I played with, at San Jose College, at West Valley College, on the Falcons, and even on some on the Eagles. But I haven't really got any teammates in the Eagles because we all kind of that team after things broke off, everyone went their separate ways. But essentially, kind of, with kind of, the podcast itself, it was to provide a platform for athletes, who either, are on the cusp of trying to get to the next level, right, or who have already played at the highest level and want to share their stories, and just basically give a platform for everyone, and also kind of provide an interactive experience, right, like this, to where fans, fellow athletes or whoever wants to come on the show, they'll have the opportunity to kind of, get, have to talk about the story and also have their voice be heard on whatever they want to talk about. So I think that was pretty much the main driver for me to start the podcast.
So I know for me, playing going from high school ball straight into a semi-professional league, it was a big adjustment trying to compete with the other players, seeing a lot better talent.
Right.
Uh, how did you adjust to that change going from high school to college ball to arena?
Yeah, obviously it's a That's a great question, because and I now have to go back and give you long-winded answers again because I have to give you the full story, right? For me, obviously, I didn't get to play in high school because my grades were too bad. I was a fucking knucklehead, right? I was just like I was not caring the first couple of years. I finally get my shit together my junior year. I talked to Coach Mannion, who's actually the father of Sean Mannion, who's on the Vikings, right? I'm like, Coach, can I play D1? And he's all like, Austin, let me be honest with you. This school's been kicking ass at football for 25 years. You want to play D1? Guess what? Only 3 guys have made it D1. You're gonna have your best bet is go to JUCO, walk on, and then basically see where that takes you. I walk on San Jose College. I walk on West Valley College following year. Pretty much, and then obviously Sabercats tryout from Arena. The adjustment for me, obviously, to walk on to JUCO was just so, having never played right at that point, was basically like my first practice there, bro. Fucking James Jones from the Packers is there doing the ladder, and I'm just like, fuck. And I'm just he's at a receiver his size to be able to move that well, like kind of that I guess, like, to move laterally with such ease and to move up and down with such ease, and his cuts and his breaks were just pitch perfect, pristine. I mean, it was just like, whoa. So I'm like, okay, what the fuck did I get myself into, right? And so that was great. It was a great experience because obviously for me, I was a little 135 pounds soaking wet, right? It's like this little fucking like scrappy kid trying to figure shit out, and I had to obviously put on weight, so it was good kind of for me to put on that weight, kind of get acclimated to playing. And special teams was kind of how I made my bread and butter. Um, so from JUCO to Arena, it wasn't that much of a change. It's just obviously the talent becomes better. And then, like I said, like when I finished my education, when I went back to school, I stopped playing entirely. So I basically finished my master's in around 2017, 4 years ago. And then I basically go and I get a job in Chicago. I moved to Chicago in late 2017. And then I find out, so even though here in the West Coast, they don't have arena football, arena football is not as prevalent as it used to be back like 10 years ago when I was playing. Now, obviously, in the Midwest and also in the South and the Southeast, in the East Coast, arena's still there. It may not be the AFL, but they still have a large presence, right? Especially in the Midwest. So, semi-pro obviously was kind of a good outlet to kind of play and scrimmage against those teams who I used to play against. But kind of to your point, obviously, like you said, like, yeah, it's an adjustment because you're not with professional athletes. You're not with junior collegiate athletes. You're with guys from high school, guys from who maybe never played, right? And guys who have maybe transportation issues, have money issues, can't get to practice on time. It's a little bit disorganized in some aspects, right? So kind of the way I kind of adjusted to it was I kind of took on a leadership role with the Falcons. I was a captain, I was a general manager. I took on the GM responsibility and also kind of brought guys to practice and back. And also kind of, on special teams, whenever we were playing, either if we're scrimmaging practice or we had game, I try to leverage my experience in playing arena and playing JUCO to these younger guys who are trying to get to the next level, use semi-pro as a vehicle to get to the next level, and give them pointers and kind of, make them understand what the positions are, kind of understand lane integrity, understand the basics of special teams, so that way, they can understand it. But, to your point, yeah, I mean, I'll say one thing: it's a lot, it's a lot less organized and a lot less structured, right? Than kind of like you said, like if you play at a powerhouse high school, if you play at a powerhouse JUCO, you play at a arena football team, right? You're getting paid to play. It's a lot. It's a huge adjustment, right? Because you're at this point you have guys paying to play, right? So I mean, I think my adjustment was just making sure that, I think my adjustment was making sure I had an open mind to it, and just making sure that with these younger guys, I kind of try to levy some knowledge and try to help out whichever way I can to help them get to the next level. And yeah, I mean, I basically had a lot of fun, doing it. So
Something you just said, it kind of stuck with me because like I'm going through the same change right now.
right,
Um, so I ended up having to end my career a little bit early, playing wise, because I'm having some knee problems, and I just had a surgery in November, so I can't really play much anymore. But I can still play a little bit. But I'm now the head coach slash GM of a baseball team, and going from being a player to being the coach and GM, trying to scramble and get enough players to play, and like trying to get them all to practice. It is tough. It's very tough. Like the past 3 practices I've had, only 2 guys showed up.
right, right,
So like to me, like, yeah, I feel like it's very unorganized, but at the same time, I know we're not getting paid.
right.
Like we're all out there for fun. We're just so like, yeah, it's stressful at times, but it's not it's not about like being there. It's about and doing something that you enjoy doing. Because being there with those 2 guys, yeah, it's different being a coach, but I'm still out there swinging. I'm still out there catching a little bit. Like so. I'm doing that, and then it really brightens my day up a little bit because I'm still doing something I love.
Right, right. And I think to that point, that was also kind of because you draw that resonates with me too. Kind of, there would be maybe one or two guys at practice, including myself, right? But we get that work in, and kind of like those guys become your best friends at some point because, like you said, you're just out there doing what you love. You're out there, like you said, just basically perfecting your craft or leveraging knowledge onto these guys. And obviously, when you have a love for a game, I guess semi-pro, to summarize it, like as you know, it's just a love for the game. You're pretty much
Yep.
you're out there just because you love the game. And obviously with me, like, I mean, you probably see me kind of like attack guys who have something to say about that, right? On semi-pro, but at the same time, I mean, like, it's all love. I mean, I respect the guys for their abilities. And I respect the guys who are willing to play and put the time in outside of their 9 to 5s, outside of their personal lives to get out there. And so I totally agree with you on that.
So obviously playing in games and stuff, you got fans like maybe 10 and under. Like, have you ever spoke to a kid that like changed your life, changed the view of the game, like made you love what you're doing, even if you were at your darkest moment where you wanted to give up?
And I really appreciate that question because I no one's actually kind of asked me kind of what the bad sides were, right? Kind of like, and yeah, I'll pretty much kind of backtrack, kind of, also like, during like when I was owning coaching, also kind of when I was playing, it was I took a huge financial loss because of the amount of money it took to kind of finance a team. And pretty much with that, I mean, we had kids show up, to our practices and whatnot. And also with the Falcons too, with the Chicago Falcons, I mean, I was just like, man, this isn't getting me anywhere. Why the fuck am I doing this? These guys aren't showing up. Like, I could be doing so many other things, right? And this kid, basically, I'm out there just throwing, and then like these kids, they were like, "Are you the quarterback?" I'm all like, "No, I'm not. I'm just a receiver." They're like, "Wow, but you can throw really well. Can you show us how to do it?" you know and I'm all like, yeah, absolutely, I can. Just let me just kind of is your parents here, right? Can you make sure that because these are like 6, like you said, or 9-year-olds, right? And yeah, I mean, just like that to me kind of like, and that to me kind of helped me understand that you may not, like you said, like to that little kid, you're fucking Rocky. You're like a superhero, and sometimes it gets tough. It does get tough. Sometimes you're just like, okay, why am I doing this? Even when I play professionally, like if you're getting paid how many dollars a game, it's less than 1,000 a game, right? You're just like, what's the point? But also I think that kid right there in that moment kind of like like I I was pretty much his inspiration, and I was basically, and I had to remember that, like, these are kids watching me play or watching my team perform. And it kind of gave me kind of new perspective on things that, it's not always about kind of me, right? It's about
Yeah.
kind of what the team needs and kind of why the whole point of it is giving back, right? It's whole, and like you said, impacting lives. The more lives you can impact, in my opinion, the better job you've done. If you can impact as many young lives as possible, especially kind of like when they're early on and they're trying to like first like kind of learn, get their kind of feet wet. I think I think to me that to me was a great moment, and I'm actually hoping to, if Coach John Perez is listening to me, I'm hoping to go down to Central Valley one of these days, when COVID clears up, and kind of give a speech to those kids as well, because working with the youth is something I really pride myself on. I love kids. I love working with I guess you could say the YFL, the youth football leagues, the Pop Warners, right? Just kind of Pee Wee football, making sure that I'm there and getting out there because they have so much energy. And it's kind of like at that age, it's fun because they're so innocent and they're not really thinking, but they just when you make a play, like good ball, you're like good job Johnny, good job Jimmy, like good job kid, good job Ken. And it's like, and you see like their faces light up, so yeah, I would say that to me, and that kid interaction that reference was around 2018, 2019. So around the time I was playing for these guys, Falcons. So I'd say yeah.
So obviously, like you said, the Arena Football League isn't really as big anymore as it used to be.
Right.
Like the AA, what is it? The AAF?
AAF. Yep.
Yeah, it just collapsed last year, I think.
Yep. That's right.
But there's obviously like more leagues like the IAL, the AAL, and all that other stuff.
Right.
You know, my aunt owned a team in South Carolina,
Oh wow.
and it was great to be a part of that because I met some guys. Uh, Obviously, I didn't play,
Right.
because but it was just great being a part of that because I got to see a different view of the game. I get to see like the backstage stuff that nobody else sees.
Right.
Like nobody understands like all the hard work that you put through. Like, yeah, everybody, like a lot of people say like NFL players get paid way too much, but they don't look at it like, oh, they're giving up their livelihoods, they're giving up their families, to be there, to put on a show for a bunch of the like fans, like, yeah, it's a lot of work. Being a part of that, it was a really great experience for me because it gave me a different view on things. So like, how did it adjust to you? Like, how did it make you feel?
And actually that harkens back to I think your second question, which was why did I start the podcast? What was the main reason? It's what you just described, the backstage that no one gets to see, right? The kind of, the journey behind the scenes. What does it take to put this product on the field, right? What does it take for this athlete to suit up, either if he has a 9 to 5 or if he doesn't, if this is his 9 to 5, what is the process for him to get there? Or what is the process for him when he's there, to kind of continue playing and maintain a competitive a balance, I think for me, obviously, kind of the behind the scenes stuff, like I said, owning, coaching, as well as playing. Each team and each experience at each level, whether it was junior college, with some of the guys who I'm still some of my best friends to this day, some of these guys who did get called up, to like the NFL, like like kind of shout out Manu if you're listening, you got called up to Niners for rookie mini camp back 2012. A few other guys like Kevin Viles got a tryout. He played in Europe. I played against him. And Bruce Lau Pepe, who's now a pro wrestler at Knox for Wrestling, Rikishi's organization, right? I think the behind the scenes stuff, which people don't really understand and appreciate, these are the types of things that, the impact it had on me, obviously, especially with semi-pro, when I started, obviously being a player and being an owner, when I started being a player and a GM and also being an owner, respectively afterwards. I basically learned that, hey man, this shit is like this is real, especially in Chicago, right? Because there's a lot of these kids who can't afford, to could basically, have a car, like, show up to practice, or, basically like, pay for, team fees, right? But you see all the struggles behind the scenes, I mean, like with everything, like, in like the past year alone, I've lost already 2 or 3 teammates, two from the Falcons, one from my college, West Valley, Ricky Berrigan, shout out Ricky, rest in peace, Ricky, fly high, he died of cancer. But I think, kind of to your point, yeah, I mean, like, like especially in the pro level, like arena level, like people don't really appreciate, like, yeah, man, like you said, like, we have to sacrifice a lot to get to that point. We have to sacrifice a lot to get out there 5 days a week to practice and then Saturdays to put on a show. It's same thing with the NFL, obviously traveling. It's almost like, like you and I are both wrestling fans, same thing. It's like people don't really appreciate that. It's all, it's fake. Well, guess what? 300 fucking nights a year you got to get out there and bust your ass, right? And I think, to your point, I mean, the question, obviously the impact it had on me, it gave me a new perspective and it made me grateful for a lot of what I took for granted. Because a lot of things that you see, either in semi-pro, even in arena, a lot of these guys, because these guys aren't from the same backgrounds that you may be from. Like you may be from a privileged background, you may be from that background, right? It just makes you kind of appreciate kind of everyone's journey and everyone's kind of commitment to get there. But it also kind of makes you like also be a little grateful for what you have, because you may have seen people who may not have as good as you, and that's the thing that I think was the biggest takeaway, from the behind the scenes, because people may think like, oh yeah, like like, yeah, you guys are just playing football for fun, you guys are losers, whatever, right? If you're playing semi-pro, it's like, well, dude, yeah, but of course, like, the physicality isn't any less. That's one thing I noticed. Physicality isn't any less. Talent level, maybe there's a discrepancy there, right? Especially from the pro level. Like, obviously, and the last team that I owned a team, South Carolina. Last team I played for, I played against in the AIF was the Cape Fear Heroes out in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and they
Yeah.
finished the season 9-0. And they blew us out 79-27, and they're still around. We folded that year, and then they're still around. They're still kicking ass, right? Obviously
Yeah,
the
I
IAL.
know.
Yeah.
I remember when we had to go out there.
How was that?
Oh,
Man,
it was rough, man. Like
yeah.
they put up some numbers against us.
Them boys is badass, brothers, bro. I mean, those guys, they know those motherfuckers can play. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, they can.
you
They're
talk about
scrappy. They are
scrap.
scrappy.
Oh my god. Man, I mean, I still remember that the 79-27 was the final score of our championship game, right? And like it wasn't that we were outmatched. Well, we were outmatched. It wasn't that. I feel like it was more so just like they were so cohesive. Like they knew exactly how to execute on offense, defense, and special teams. And it's just, their coaching and their ownership has been subpar, has been superb. And yeah, I mean, shout out to Cape for Heroes if you guys listen to this. I mean, I'm not salty because y'all earned it, right? Y'all earned it, But man, it would have been cool if this was a league championship ring, just a Western Conference championship ring, But yeah, man. I mean, and like you said, like especially at the like the NAL and the IFL and the CIF, right? Also, I've had guests on the show. Majority of the guests have actually been part of those pro minor arena football leagues. I mean, I call it minor leagues because even though they're professional leagues in arena, because the AFL is no longer the major league overarching. I call them minor leagues because people only consider major leagues like the NFL and the CFL, right?
Yeah.
And pretty much with those leagues, like my quarterback from West Valley College, Kyle Cool, shout out Kyle Cool for this. He went to go play for the Jacksonville Sharks. He went to go play in the NAL. And then obviously like Kevin Vi, a bunch of guys. Cody Galea got to play in the IFL with the Arizona Rattlers. Used to be a former AFL team. Guests on the show who've all played at one league or the other. I think I think obviously kind of back to the question. Kind of the just having the experience of getting the behind the scenes, both on the field, backstage, in administration, and now on the podcast. It's just been very it's been a very humbling experience. So yeah.
Watching we were the Upstate Dragons. I don't know if you've heard of them or anything. Played against them or, but coming from the Upstate Dragons, we were pretty much a first year team going into the AAF.
Right.
And we had a bunch of fan support our first game.
Right.
But since we were a first year team, of course we didn't have like top talents. We didn't have like the top names. We didn't have the biggest players, so we got destroyed that first game.
Right.
So after that, I believe we played the Grizzlies or something like that. They were from Georgia.
Right.
But I guess the fan base that we had that first game, they were like, oh, this is not worth my time. Like I'm not going to come out here if our home team's just going to get their ass whooped like that.
Right. Yeah. So
like what would you do to try and keep that fan base up? Obviously, we're not a team anymore because that first year was rough. But from your point of view, what would you do differently?
So, I guess as a player, what I would do is I would try to get more involved and more engaged with the community. The beautiful thing about the Stockton Wolves is that Central Valley at this time, especially Northern Central Valley, there was no professional team because, obviously, they used to have the Wolf Football League back in the early 90s with the Sacramento Surge, right? And they won the WF and Bill Goldberg and a few other like major league players and wrestlers or whoever, they went to play for that team. I think kind of what I would do to ensure that the fans are engaged is just making sure that, we go out to the community because like to your point, obviously like when the fans see you get your asses whooped and you get your asses whooped bad, they're not going to want to be there, because they're going to want, it's like anywhere, it's like the NFL, I mean, who the fuck wants, but shout out to the Browns fan base. I mean, the fact that they've been this dedicated, right? I mean, for this long, it's incredible, but I mean, it's like, like to your question, and to your overall point, it's just like making sure that you do what you can to ensure the fans are engaged and kind of making sure that your product is exciting. If you're a first year team, like to your point, you may not be able to just say that, okay, we're going to win the championship. No. What you can obviously market is the fact that, hey, yeah, I mean, here's this team, here's kind of our uniforms, here's our mascot, here's our arena, here's the experience you're going to get as a fan. Here's the experience you're going to get as a fan. You come out here, you basically get to see like, professional athletes play, and you get to obviously, you're going to pay a lot less money than going to watch an NFL game, right? You're going to pay a lot less money than going to watch, any other type of game or any other type of like major event. And you'll be able to just, have a good time with your family and friends. I think making sure that it's family centric, right, is key, I think, number one. And number two, just making sure that you kind of go out to the community of that city that you're kind of serving in, because I'm very grateful for the city of Stockton, the city of San Jose. Obviously, like, so Chicago, I'm not as well known, but obviously in the minor leagues, anyone who did watch me, obviously in the Midwest, the Chicago, Wisconsin, Michigan, wherever, I'm very grateful for those fans because, I mean, we did have fans show up to the games and it was crazy because, like, when we got to the Western Conference Championship game, we had not had an attendance of more than, I'd say, 1,000 fans, right, per game.
Yeah.
I get to the Western Conference Championship game, or the Conference Championship game in October 6, 2018. There's 10,000 fans. In the stands, and I'm just like, dude, this feels, I'm feeling a little nostalgic, right? I'm feeling like, all right, we're gonna win this, and we didn't, we got blown out 37-0. But it's just like you got your, but to your point, I think it's just making sure that you create a product, with the product being the team, making sure that you appeal to whatever the fan base is, kind of what's that city value, are they do they value faith, do they value community? Do they value, I mean, are they a blue collar town? Are they a white collar town? Are they, I mean, what's the demographic of your fan base? Trying to put things out there that kind of fit, but also you're not trying to exclude anyone as well. I think that's pretty much the key to ensure your fans are engaged, even if you're a first year team and you may not be the most competitive in that first year.
Now I know for me, like why I fell in love with arena football is you get to see the guys that didn't have the talent at the time to play college ball,
right,
and make it up to the pro level, but seeing guys like, there's just one guy from he actually went to the same high school as me. He's a great guy. I still talk to him to this day. I would say he's one of my closest friends. I mean, yeah, we don't hang out much, but Jesse Turman, man, he's a great inspiration to me. He lost both of his parents, and he just had his newest kid, and like seeing where he came from and seeing like what he's made out of it,
right,
like it was just that's what truly made me fall in love with the game, like seeing guys that didn't have the talent back then grow into something great, like Jesse, he was phenomenal. Like he made the team and all, but the first few games he didn't make the roster, like, because you only get like a 25-man roster.
100%. Yep. That's right.
But that didn't stop him, man. Like he kept grinding, he kept putting in the work. And then the first game that he got to play in, the first time he made the roster, he sat on the sideline for a little bit. And then I remember when he caught his first touchdown pass, like it was a great moment, like being a part of that. And, I was the mascot. So like I was sitting there, I was close to the end zone and I seen him and I couldn't help myself, man. I jumped onto the field, man. I gave him a hug, man. I was so happy for him. Like seeing him do that, it really, it gave me joy,
Right. And I think to your point, that's pretty much kind of that resonates with me too, because I knew my talent even as a JUCO player. I'm not going to go to the NFL. I believe that I've gone by to combine stuff and tryouts, right? With different teams. It never was a goal for me because I knew that I'm coming straight out of high school and kind of making sure that I knew I was realistic with my expectations as an athlete, but also to your point, kind of whatever opportunity you give me, I'm gonna seize it. Kind of like what Jesse did. He seized it. You in that moment where he scores his first touchdown, you're just like, what? Fuck yeah, Jesse! Like you go, boy. Here we go. You know what I'm saying? So those are the moments that I appreciate and cherish the most because when I had a block, on special teams, both in arena and in semi-pro, the experience was no less different. When your teammates, when your fans, when your coaches, when your peers are there to see you, kind of make the most of an opportunity, make a play, to kind of set up, kind of your teammates and set up your team for success. And, I mean, like my other teammate, Jonathan Fonda, who was on this, back in episode 7, over like 40 episodes ago, right? He basically was talking about, he's like, because I remember, he's like, he said this in the camera. I remember on kick return, there's the guy who had to come and someone had to guard him to make sure that our return man could come or cut backside and kind of use that sideline to get a straight shot to the end zone, right? And I was the first guy to get there, and so and then the next kickoff, obviously, I mean, we were on kickoff and we had to get the return man. I was the first man there, to get to the return man. And that was one of my favorite moments playing semi-pro because the fact that my teammates remember that, they're like, and the moment after, like, the first time I made the block and after I made the play for the ball, when they came on field, like, we saw you, boy, like, we saw you, boy, you know what I mean? And to your point, it's just, yeah, I mean, it's and I think that's also more reason why I started the podcast, because yeah, maybe at one point we weren't talented enough to make the NFL, but guess what? We do have talent, you know. Just because you don't play in the NFL does not mean you're not a talented athlete, And if I'm not proof of it, I don't know what is, I mean, I never played in the NFL, but I was able to make the most of my opportunities, in the Arena League and JUCO, and as well as semi-pro, right? And essentially, kind of, to your point, I mean, kind of with Jesse, I'm sure that you can relate to that too. Like, Jesse was a great athlete, and kind of, lots of guys from high school share your same experience or your story with Jesse, in that they saw how dedicated and committed I was to the craft and how I kept going. I'm sure Jesse, I mean, is he still playing, or kind of what's he doing right now?
Yeah, he just signed with a new team, I think.
See, so there you go. He's still going. You know what I mean? And like you said, it creates opportunities for us athletes who it has nothing to do, like I said, it's not your talent, dude. It's just there are guys in the NFL. There's been guests on the show who've said this, and I'm gonna echo their sentiments, because I think it's a really important point to make. Just because you don't get to the NFL, it doesn't mean you weren't talented enough to get there. It just means something came along the way. You either didn't get the opportunity, or you didn't know the coaches, and I'm not saying anyone in the NFL does not deserve to be in the NFL, right? But obviously, the arena football, there are guys you can make the case for, right? People have told me on numerous occasions, you should be in the NFL. People probably told you, or about Jesse. People have probably told a bunch of my other teammates, at different levels, right? And especially in the arena level, right? I'm sorry, different teams in the arena level, right? It's just I think to your point, and this brings me joy too. Like this podcast and talking about this with you, and kind of being able to share that experience and share that passion, is really kind of it brings life to me. You know what I'm saying? So I think I appreciate you sharing that story about Jesse. That's awesome. Congrats to him.
So going back to the whole NFL thing, like, yeah, you got the talent and stuff. Like I would have loved to play in the MLB. Don't get me wrong. Like
Right.
I would have loved it.
Right.
But playing in a smaller league, like it gives me more love for the game, because like you're around the fans, like you're close to them. You actually know your fans personally. Like, and like when you're sitting on the bench, like when your team's hitting, you actually have little kids walk up to you and be like, "Hey, can you sign this ball? Hey, can you
Right.
do this?" Like,
Right. Yeah.
it's great. Like, I would love to play in front of thousands of people, but playing in the 20s, the 30s, like fans, it gives me a different appreciation for the game because like I don't feel like I'm just playing it for myself. I feel like I'm playing it to prove to little Johnny right there that anything's possible. Like they look up to you. They're like, "Hey, I want to be this guy. This guy's good. Like I want to be as good as this guy."
And I think to your point, that's another reason kind of the adjustments to my pro. Like, like I said, the fan attendance, like you said, was not, I told you, was not in the thousands, from the majority of our regular season, right? And so similar to you, right? In some instances, right? But the road games, I mean, it was surprising. I mean, the fans pack the stands, especially in the Midwest. I love, shout out to any Midwest semi-pro teams out there. Obviously, like I guess I could give a shout out to the Kalamazoo Titans, the Southern Lakes Blue Devils, and the Madison Mad Dogs out there in Madison, Wisconsin. Because obviously when you're out there and you have a fan base, even if they're cheering against you, I mean, they still support you at the end of the day, But like you said, it's not going to be the same level as when I played in the AIF. It's not going to be 10 to 15 on average every single 10 to 15,000 on average every single night or every game every week, filling the pack and stands, and 25-30,000 for the championship game, right? It's going to be like, maybe a couple hundred, maybe, right? Maybe, right? Like they said 20, 30. But to your point, that's exactly it. Kind of like the story about the kid. Like, oh yeah, do you play? And then like I'm playing catch with him, right? And yeah, I actually did sign him an autograph too that day. So yeah, I mean it's pretty cool. Kind of like I'm glad you brought up your story about signing an autograph for the ball. I'm sure that's awesome. I love that. Um, to that, I think yeah, to that effect, I think that's I agree with you. I think playing semi-pro, the biggest value I got out of it was kind of the generation of kids who want to play and are watching you, and basically kind of like I said, look up to you, like kind of like what you said, as like a Rocky figure or like a superhero, bringing them joy, and just being able to say, okay, I'm doing this for them. It really gives you a different perspective, and again, it harkens back to being grateful. I mean, God knows, I mean, we're on this planet Earth for however long the big guy puts us on here, right? But essentially, whatever you make while you're on here, if you make the most of it, you've done you fulfilled your mission, you fulfilled your purpose, right? And I think, to your point, the kids are a big part of that, especially for me too. So
I remember this one time I was up to bat and my my bat before that, like I hit a like shot, like I hit a gapper, and ended up getting a double. I should have got a triple, but I failed round in second,
right.
like, and then my next at bat, I was pumped, I was ready to swing, and then I broke my favorite bat, like,
Oh
so like
man, damn.
I was mad, like I
Yeah.
broke it, I grounded out because my bat broke. And then, like, as I was walking off the field, I had like two pieces of my bat in my hand, and I was walking out to my dugout, and I wanted to sling it, like I was pissed.
Hmm.
And then these kids walked up to me, and they were like, "Why are you mad?" I was like, "I broke my bat." They're like, "No, that's nothing to be mad about. It's a piece of wood." And like for me, like I'm 21 years old, like having these little kids walk up to me and tell me it's just a piece of wood. I was like, dang, they're right. It is just a piece of wood. Like that doesn't determine who you are as a player.
Right. Man. And
And
to your
then
yeah, go ahead.
they're like, "What are you gonna do with this bat?" I was like, "Do y'all want it?" And like giving them something that meant something to me, really, really brightened my day.
Right.
Because I lost my great uncle that weekend, and I actually lost him that day. Like my phone was blowing up that whole day, talking about arrangements and stuff, and them kids walking up to me, like it really brightened my day, and having them, kind of give me a pep talk without them meaning to, because kids don't really know what they're saying. They're just kids, but that really pushed me to keep playing and keep doing what I was doing and giving them something that meant something to me, some of my memorabilia. Um, Hopefully, they'll remember me with it. Like remember that moment that they changed my life. Have you ever had a moment like that?
Yeah, I mean, and that's, and I love that story, and I love that you had that experience. It's great, for any athlete, to have that experience. For me, I think, like I said, the same experience about, the kids, and then signing those autographs when after I play catch with them, but also just a moment where it was like, I think even outside of kids, the guys from high school, I mean, kind of, after I came back to California, I mean, I retired playing 2 years ago, like, full time, or semi-professionally full time, right? Basically, those guys, they basically like, bro, we want your autograph, like now. I'm like, what? Like, we want your autograph now, buddy. Like, get us your fucking autograph. I'm like, all right. And so pretty much, um, I used to be, and I think, you breaking the bat is one instance. Me kind of, being frustrated, either with the kind of the youth I was dealing with in semi-pro, whether it was kind of like the kids trying not understanding kind of the different the kind of the assignments of lane integrity, understanding what a blocker does, or understanding what a jammer does as opposed to a gunner, understanding what eyes up back need to tell you what to do, knowing how to line up for punt, knowing how to line up for field goal, knowing different formations for fakes, right? Um, it would frustrate me a lot, and sometimes my frustration was visible, kind of like yours, right? And then the kids in the stands, they come after the game, they're like, hey, mister, like, why are you so mad? I'm all, or like, we saw you screaming out there and saying some stuff my mom wouldn't want us to repeat. But kind of, what was the reason? I'm like, well, that's pretty much just how I get when I'm dealing with kind of like, lack of attentiveness, and lack of, just like engagement, and they're like, but it's like, well, can't you make it up the next play? I'm all like, yeah, you know. I mean, technically you can't, but I mean, in that moment, I'm like, huh, yeah, you know what? I don't need to get mad. And then kind of to your point, I mean, obviously, like, whether it was like, whether they want me to sign like, like their jerseys, or because I kind of sign like their balls, or just basically like, like sign whatever I sign, like, whether I sign photos, whether I sign, whether my own jerseys, for whoever, like any young fans across the globe hit me up on Facebook, or any kind of kids, out there, just basically being able to kind of give back. But the experience of obviously understanding that, yeah, I mean, of course you want to do the best you can, on the field, make sure your team wins as a leader, as a, but you also want to know that, guess what, like, like these kids, I mean, and obviously like they help you see the bigger picture,
Yeah,
and the bigger picture, is really what kind of what you should what should drive you every day. Like, obviously you're a mentor. You're not someone, you are to someone, you're someone's hero, whether you know it or not. And
yeah,
you want to make sure you all set that example, you know at in all phases. Obviously, for me, I didn't realize how big my fan base was until I started semi-pro, and I basically started social media, right, and connected us, like connected me to, like, fellow athletes like you who are also fans, and these kids, right, across, like, you, like what you were harking to, like the kids across, the country and internationally, and I think that to me is kind of where I really kind of just knew, okay, like, guess what, man, like, hey, you're gonna inbox maybe every other week for an autograph. Just run with it. It may be someone, maybe someone you don't know. If it's someone you don't know, just be open minded to it, because you know what, hey man, like, to that person you mean something, and like you said, you hope that whenever you sign that for someone, they're able to remember you for it, and they're able to use that to help drive them in their journey. That's my biggest hope. That if anyone has my autograph, like yesterday's fan, Mark, when I asked him, "Do you sell my autograph on eBay?" And he's like, "Nope, I did not yet." So, obviously, he's keeping it, and he told me that it's something he looks at, because he follows a lot of motivational speakers, and a lot of and he harkens a lot of motivational quotes. So he says, like, he's like, for me, and like a lot of guys who either went to high school or anywhere, they basically, like, I'm an inspiration to them. That to me is the biggest kind of value. It's not only getting the recognition from the guys, like the NFL, like, the Pro Bowl or Super Bowl champions, the Hall of Famers, right? It's also just the guys, like you said, who you knew you from before day one, or knew you from day one before you became like, a bigger, a bigger brand. Um, So yeah, I mean, yeah, I basically kind of gave you 3 or 4 examples in that, and even though you asked for one. I'm just like, here's 3 or 4 examples,
Hey,
brother. Yeah.
more to you, man. More to you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this or not, but a few years ago when I first, friended you on Facebook,
Yeah.
I messaged you and I was like, "Hey, I like your jersey, but you're playing for the wrong Falcons. I'm a huge
Yeah.
Atlanta Falcons fan."
I remember that.
Um,
Yeah. Right.
like ever since that
That's why I'm
day,
not wearing it. That's why I'm not wearing it today. Good.
ever since that day, like I've kept up with you. Like I like seeing people achieve their goals. I love that because it inspires me. Like especially with dealing with uh, depression and anxiety. Like that's a tough topic for me to talk about.
Right.
But seeing people achieve their goals, no matter from what background they're from and stuff, um, it inspires me to be the next big thing. Like I want kids to look up to me. I want people, our age or your age to my age look up to me. Like even though I'm the same age as them or younger than them.
Right.
Like believe it or not, you're an inspiration to me. I keep up with you. I watch your highlights. I love watching you play. Like I would have loved to see you play in person, but seeing what you've done in your life, it spoke to me a lot. And like I really appreciate everything you've done.
And I'm really grateful to hear that from you. I really appreciate you saying that, man. I feel like that to me is really why I really think that's why I kept playing. I kept going to ensure that I could prove to anyone, regardless of your disposition, regardless of your circumstances, hey man, stop making so many fucking excuses, man. Like your time on this earth is short. The big man
Yep.
upstairs is gonna call your number, boom. That's it. And what are you gonna be able to say? You know, what are you gonna be able to say when it's all said and done? You know, and obviously, like to you, mentioning how I inspired you, it really inspire it's a positive feedback mechanism because then I get inspired hearing that. It makes me understand that the value of what I was able to accomplish and the value of what I was able to achieve. Obviously, like with everything that I've been able to do, obviously as a player, everything I was being able to do, outside of playing now, and obviously like you said, like out in life pursuits outside of it. I'm just eternally grateful. I'm eternally grateful. That's the number one thing. I'm eternally grateful for everything. All the life lessons. All life lessons that the big man's kind of put in front of me and kind of my teammates and my coach. All the obstacles. We like you said, depression, anxiety. We all go. I mean, I'm not against that. But there are periods. There was significant periods where I had to go through that because sometimes you're just like, well, what's next? I mean, like, there seems to be like I can't catch a break, right?
Yep.
But outside of that, I really I'm really grateful. I'm really appreciative. I'm really thankful. To hear that from you, because that tells me, obviously that for me as a player and as an athlete, I did my job. I did my job, and I look forward to obviously, I mean, shoot, I mean, maybe if I can get this hernia fixed, right? Maybe I get back out there and we can make some magic happen. But we'll see
Yeah,
what
when I heard
happens.
about that, man, I was like, dang, that's what I just had surgery on.
Yeah,
But then
yeah,
you
yeah.
told me yours wasn't big enough to operate on. I was like, well, dang, that kind of sucks because that puts a hold on everything. Because I was grateful that I had it fixed.
Yeah. I mean, the doctor basically said that it's so small he doesn't recommend surgery, but in the same breath he's saying don't weight lift. And I'm just like, wait, what? Like I
Like,
can't
what are you
wait.
supposed to do?
Yeah,
Like, you're
exactly.
putting your life on hold.
Yeah, because all I have are fucking dumbbells in this fucking garage. All I have are dumbbells, or I have barbells, or I have and I mean I do push-ups, I do sit-ups, because that's what I've been doing for the past 13 years, 14 years now of my life. That's all I know, right? And now, like you said, I'm putting my life on hold. I'm putting my career on hold. If it's an early retirement, so be it. I mean, just hearing you say that inspired you just tells me I did my job. I don't ever have to play another down football again. But I mean, obviously, like to make you happy, to make other kids out there happy. People actually hit me up yesterday, also like, man, like, I wish we could have seen you. Wish we could have seen your film. Obviously, you saw my highlights, so I appreciate you kind of recognizing that. And obviously, like, I mean, like, that drives me, because it's like I have, and like the guys from high school too, they're like, bro, you should come play for a team out here, like local team. You should go, wherever. My teammates are really kind of the main driver for me to play semi-pro. But like, we're all past the age of 30 now, so I mean, it depends. Maybe we'll keep playing, maybe not. But at the same
You're
time,
at
like,
that age where everything's starting to hurt.
yeah, brother, my knees are shot and done. G, I wake up and I'm just like, Lord, what the hell did I do to deserve this?
Wake up
Like,
feeling like you got hit by a truck.
I had Lincoln Kennedy on. I was telling him I had an MRI done because I get these headaches every day, and it came out clear. And Lincoln was just like, "I have arthritis every day, brother. Don't worry. I know exactly what you're dealing with." And so that's why I'm actually, shout out to Low Two Previousness. I started his own in CBD. I just started it, so basically we'll see how that turns out. But kind of with that, I think the biggest thing is just recognizing that, as an athlete, I really do hope that this hernia, if I'm probably gonna reconnect my doctor and figure out kind of, hey, like, if it's too small to operate on, are we absolutely sure I should refrain from contact sports and I should refrain from weightlifting, because if I feel like I've read online that you can do some way, like, and obviously, like, you can attest to it. And Jay, shout out to Jay, who also gave his thoughts about his experience with the hernia. I mean, he was able to attest to it. He also played arena, right? But I really do kind of hope that that if I am able to play again, I can go out and give you a show. And anyone else who's a fan of me, I really hope I can kind of do it for them, because that's what I do it for. I don't do it for anyone else. I mean, I do it for myself, but I do it for you guys. I don't do it to prove anything, because I've proven everything I've ever wanted to do in this sport. But I think the biggest, like you said, just being able to inspire is something that really makes me grateful, to have had the career I've had. And yeah, I really appreciate you sharing kind of my impact on you, because that also inspires me.
I'm glad. But going back to the hernia thing, like I was born with mine, and like that never stopped me from playing. Like my doctors never told me, like they never told me it was anything to worry about. They said it was only you only had to worry about it if it got bigger.
Right.
Well, this past year, I've noticed it was getting bigger and stuff, but I just pushed it off. I was like, nah, it's no big deal. And like I kept getting these sharp pains in my stomach, and I was like, it's whatever, it'll go away. And then towards October, uh, I just got my job back. I got laid off because of COVID.
Right. Congratulations on getting your job back.
Yeah, I got my job back, and as soon as I got my job back, I had to be rushed to the ER like 3 times. And like, I live with my disabled grandfather. He's a veteran, and like, he can't really get around on his own. So, I'm there to help my grandmother out, help him. You know, and the doctor's telling me, you can't do anything anymore. Like for 6 to 8 weeks after the surgery's done, you can't do anything. And they said, my hernia was wrapped around my lower intestine, right?
Right.
So
Damn.
like I was out for the full 8 weeks. Like I'm just now going back to work this week. So financially it was a struggle. And like being with my grandfather, like that can't get around much, seeing him fall and me knowing I can't help pick him up, it was a very tough situation for me because like I felt like, I'm irrelevant to be there. Like I can't do my stuff. I can't do what I'm supposed to do when I'm there. Like um but now I'm starting to see the brighter things. Like I had this surgery done. I can finally go back to being who I was. And like it's difficult because I'm having to lean on my family for financial support. My girlfriend and her family, they love me to death. They've been helping me, and I'm so grateful for that. Shout out to them, But having a family that will help you through those times means a lot, because even when you think, like I said, I struggle with anxiety and depression. Like even when you think nobody's there and where nobody cares about you, they prove you wrong. Like the bigger things in life eventually show themselves.
And I totally agree with that because, obviously when I was going through my low period, financially too, just like you, right? Depression, huge. It was huge because you're just like, what the fuck? Like, am I just that fucking worthless? I can't do shit. Like, was I put on this fucking earth to not do anything, and I can't help anyone. I can't do anything. And you're just sitting there, just questioning everything. Like, what's my real purpose to be here? And to your point, same thing with me. Like my family was able to kind of come through. I mean, I won't give them all the credit. Shout out to me, 81 like this, right? But no, I mean they're able to come through and give me the support I needed. Give me that shoulder to lean on. Kind of to make sure that I realize that, hey man, especially this, you may have experienced this too. There are guys when you play, either professionally in the arena league, in any of these arena leagues, or even semi-professionally, wherever. There's a lot of guys who I encounter who are wolves in sheep's clothing. They wanted to use me for whatever kind of advantage that they could take, and a lot
Yep.
of it was monetary. Um, so kind of when I first hear about stories on Michael Jordan, basically cutting off guys and like basically not wanting to like associate with them, like it was basically like I thought like, oh, that's selfish motherfucker, like he's worth $2 billion, like like why isn't he doing what he needs to do? And then I finally got to see, oh wait, this is why you're gonna have guys literally inboxing you every chance they get, blowing up your phone, trying to get whatever you've earned, you know, and and I think the family, the key thing about family and also faith, having faith and also having family there to be a support system is key. Understanding that, like you said, the bigger picture, the higher power that's over all of us, and also understanding that your family will be there and you have to do everything for them, because you're put on this earth to protect your family and make sure that that they're going to help you, get through these tough times is a key component of understanding what your mission is and what your journey is, on this
Yep.
planet. So anyone listening, understand that, if you're going through anxiety, you're going through depression, any type of mental health issues, you're not alone, man. Hey, we've all been there, you know. But I think the biggest thing is understanding that, your family will be there to help you when you need them the most. And making sure that you understand that whatever you're going through is temporary. If you need
Yep.
help, seek it out. So
And going back to the whole Michael Jordan story, like I heard this one story where, he was out to eat, and this person walked up to him and asked for his autograph, and like he said that, or the guy said that he was a dick, like he would not talk to him, he would not acknowledge him, like the struggle of being a professional athlete. Like, yeah, on the court you're there to like, show your love for the game, you're an inspiration to everybody. Like, I can kind of understand why he pushed that fan away. Like, yeah, I'm not on the court right now. Like, to you, I'm MJ. I'm a hooper. Like, but off the court, I want to be treated like a normal person. Like, I want to spend time with my family. I want to enjoy a meal with my kids without anybody coming up to harass me for an autograph or harass me for like, some shoes or whatever,
and
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 like
I yeah.
understanding that really, like, yeah, it struck me the wrong way at first, but actually experiencing it a little bit, it I kind of related to it. Like, I wouldn't try to be a dick about it, but in a way, like, people are going to think you're a dick because you're not giving them what they want.
Right. And that's exactly it. People will think you're a dick. And I actually, and you're in Georgia, right?
I'm in South Carolina.
South Carolina, yeah. So I was in Georgia when we were playing, and I remember this one guy. He's all like, he stayed standing for my car. He's like, I'm not trying to be a gangbanger. I'm not trying to be a hustler. Can I borrow $20? Give him 20. Then he's all like, okay, can you give me a ride to the gas station? I'm like, sure. No. Usually I don't give strangers rides anymore. This is why. He's like, okay, can I borrow 200? And then I'm all like, what the fuck? And I give him 200. And then I'm all like, okay, you know what? You gotta get the fuck out of my car. He's like, okay, okay. And then I drove off, just realizing I just got fucking like he tried to play on my emotions with his situation to take, like you said, to not. And I wasn't a dick. I gave him the money, right? And I gave, and like, back to the kind of, obviously with the people, when you, because the thing is, obviously with arena football athletes, they don't get paid the same amount that, professional athletes get paid, right? So the situation financially usually isn't as good as most professional athletes, depending on
Mm-hmm.
how you manage your finances. It's not the case for the majority, but I've seen multiple isolated incidences of guys basically, trying to make it, and they're struggling. They're really struggling. They're hurting,
Yeah.
you know? And so I've obviously been kind of the crux of support for them. But then I realized, kind of to your point, like, I mean, like with MJ, like it doesn't, like, it hit me when I was kind of being like, I was in his situation, right? And I'm not comparing myself to MJ, right? But it's just like when you understand kind of what his reasoning is and kind of understanding the principles behind it, there's no, it's a no brainer. It's a simple logic and common sense, man. Like, get off your ass and do something. You know, you have as much opportunity as I have, as much as you have, as much as anyone else have. Get off your ass and fucking do something with it, man. Because if you don't, you're gonna be fucking just doing that shit for the rest of your life, and you're gonna want people to fucking feel sympathy and sorry for you. And at the end of the day, that's not gonna get you anywhere. Yeah, you can play off your people's emotions for however much time you need them to, whether you're friends or family, whoever. But you're gonna be known as a toxic leech on society, and that's pretty much my 2 cents on that matter.
Yep. Like you want something like when you go, like when the big man calls you, like when you go, you want something positive for people to remember you by. Like on your tombstone, like you want something like, a great father, a great leader, a great whatever, like you don't want somebody to be like, oh, well, this man like kept begging for money. He kept doing this. He kept, just harassing people for stuff. Like you want to leave something positive on this earth.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you basically summed up perfectly. I mean, because when your time, hey, it's gonna come before you know it. I
Yep.
mean, and that's exactly it. I mean, Lofa Tupu. The reason I'm saying this, and I'm so open about saying it, because when I had Lofa on, he basically said it, and it struck. It just is like boom. Oh yeah, no, he's right. Time comes. Your life is too short, man. Like you only have a certain amount of time, a fixed amount of time to do what you want to do, right? And whatever you do
Achieve
with
them
that time,
goals.
yeah, exactly, right? And like you said, big man's gonna call you. Hey, what did you do? You know, were you someone who gave back? Were you someone who was a leech? You know, and I think to me, I was able to cut off a lot of people for that. Which is good for me. Like, psychologically speaking, and for my own financial health, which is now I'm way better than I was. And I'm thankful for that because, and obviously with with the big man's help, I've been able to get myself back to where I need to be. But back to your point, it's just like, yeah, I mean, you do not want to be remembered as you don't want to be remembered as someone who needed to use people. You want to be remembered as someone who was able to give something to people, you know? And I think that's kind of my 2 cents on that.
Now I will say this, like I'm not against people asking for people's autographs and stuff like
Oh,
that.
autographs are
Like,
fine. Yeah, no, no,
like
autographs are nothing. I mean, I signed for free. Like, here you go. Like, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I want to ask you for one, but I ain't gonna do it.
No, I'm gonna send it because you did. You inadvertently did. Go ahead.
But I'm one of those people that like, yeah, I would love this person's autograph, but I don't want to ask them for it because like, like you don't want somebody to think, oh, they're just there for, a piece of paper that has their name on it. Like
Right, right.
I want you, like, if I did ask you, like, I want you to know that I truly support you and that I love what you do. Like, I don't want you to think that, oh, you're a professional athlete. I need your autograph. Like, I need you. Like, you're famous. Like, let me get your autograph. Like, no, like, the autographs I get, like, yeah, as a kid, I went to a lot of minor league games. Um, I would ask for autographs, not knowing, like, what it really meant and still having that stuff. Like I got this one catcher's mitt that it was my favorite catcher's mitt. It was my first catcher's mitt ever. I got it signed by the whole team one year, and like having that piece now, and like looking back, and like one of the guys that's on there, he plays for the Chicago White Sox right now, Yohan Moncada.
Yeah.
Um, Back then, he was just a guy that I thought was good, but now I'm looking at it like dang, I had this dude's autograph. I want him to ask me for my autograph one day.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
And you know,
exactly.
like I truly humbled myself after like learning the true aspects of like just a simple autograph, like because you and I've both signed a few things. Um, I used to go around like whenever people would ask for my signature whenever I use my card and stuff, I would say keep that. It'll be worth something one day. Like I
Right.
want to live up to that. I want to prove to them like yeah, I was this guy from Star, South Carolina, like a little small town in South Carolina that nobody's ever heard of, and like I want them to be like, I had this dude's autograph. He told me it was going to be worth something one day. I want to be an inspiration to them, so that way they know that no matter who you are, no matter where you've come from, no matter if you're from quote unquote the hood or whether you're from a little redneck town, which I'm from, like you can't let small stuff like that stop you from achieving so much.
And that's exactly it. I mean, it's kind of like the grind, like Lofa, if you're listening to this, brother, I love you, but what Blake just said summarizes so perfectly. I'm not going to ask you, even though I did, but I'm not going to ask you again because guess what? My autograph is worth money. So Lofa, if you're listening, you can sign it. You don't have to. I don't need it, but because I support you as a brother unconditionally. Obviously, like to your point, right? It's just like when you're able to kind of when you understand that your autograph, and it's back to my saying, what kind of drove me as a player, as an athlete. Grind until your name has value. Grind until your name has value. Don't worry about where you're from.
Exactly.
Don't worry about your dispositions. Don't worry about if you're from a little redneck town, if you're from the hood, if you're from $1 million whatever background like Johnny Manziel with oil money, wherever you're from, if whatever your background is, make the most of your opportunity. Grind until your name has value, because whatever you do with your opportunity is really what's going to define what your value is. If you're able to inspire people, there is going to be value in your autograph. If you're able to kind of, like, people who've never seen you before, met you before, it's a very humbling experience, like what you described. Obviously, when you're signing at whatever, your trading card or your kind of your baseball card or whoever's autograph you're receiving, you're just basically, okay, cool, like, this is great. I mean, and you've obviously seen my memorabilia collection. I have a bunch of, signed jerseys and whatnot. But ultimately, for me, like now, this is my favorite piece of memorabilia right there. That, this, these, because the grind I was able to basically push forward got me to where I am today. Being a former professional athlete, or I guess current, depending on what happens with hernia. Basically, I think, to your point, it's just like you want to be able to elevate yourself to where you can be considered great enough to be in the conversation, at least in the conversation with the guys you used to watch growing up as a kid. You want to be able to get yourself to that level as much as you can. And even if you fall short, you know, you'll know that, hey, you put your best effort in it and you inspired a bunch of motherfucking people out there and you did a great fucking job. And that's pretty much that's my message to anyone listening. Anyone who listens to this podcast, I know we have over 1,000 plus listeners. I'm not tooting my own horn, but anyone listening, obviously, you have no better opportunity than me. None. You have no better opportunity than me to make something of yourself. If football is what you want to do, pursue it with 110% effort. Become better than me. That's what I
Yep.
used to tell my kid, my coach. I'm sure you do. When you're coaching, right? Tell your kids to become better than you. You want to be better than those guys. Lofa even said the same thing. He's like, I went like this. I flexed. You probably saw it. I flexed, and I put it side by side with his USC photo when he had that sack and he was flexing. I'm like, did I do it right? He's like, no, you did it better. That is what you should aspire for, kids, and anyone else listening. Just fucking put your 110% effort, grind to your name as value, and eventually, hopefully, someday it will.
Like going to that point, like wanting somebody to be better than you, like wanting the best for the next person. Uh, my little brother, he used to play baseball, and like he was a catcher. And, I'm a catcher, so of course I'm going to help him. Like he would get frustrated at me because I would be so hard on him, and like I would train him to do stuff that I was doing in high school when he's in elementary school.
Right.
You know, like it's not that I'm wanting him to hate that position. It's that I'm wanting him to be better than I was. I want him to have that knowledge that I have in middle school, high school, when he's in elementary school. You know, like I want him to be better than me. I want him to make something out of his name.
And to that point, and that's a great one because I was watching this interview yesterday with Terry Bradshaw about Chuck Nolan and their relationship. Are you familiar at all with the relationship, or you kind
I'm
of?
not.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so now I get to give you a little kind of. This is something I learned too. Terry Bradshaw and Chuck Nolan did not have a good relationship at all. At all. When Terry Bradshaw was drafted there, in 1970, he basically was talking about a couple years ago. Chuck Noll, passed away 6 years ago. Rest in peace. God bless his soul. But Terry Bradshaw talked about kind of, he's the type of guy where it's like, I need positive reinforcement. You give me positive reinforcement, I'll run through a fucking wall for you. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Just give it to me. Chuck never did that. Chuck was hard on him. Chuck would basically say, Terry, like, Terry would be lighting up, but he said Chuck would basically single him out, in practices and games, and make sure that he understood that, that he's not doing the best he could possibly do, And Terry basically said it was very hard for him, to kind of adjust to that, but it toughened him up so much. He's really appreciative for it. But in the moment, he wasn't able to really appreciate it. It got to the point in 1972 where he wanted to get traded. He wanted to get traded, but then he went to Chuck's office and he's like, Chuck, just fucking trade me, man. Like, I want this exact word. He said, just fucking trade me, right? And he's like, it's too toxic here. Like, and Chuck's like, Terry, you're too damn good a quarterback. I can't do that. And then Terry's like, in that moment, I realized that, hey, I need to suck it up, stop whining, stop crying, stop complaining, understand that what's being taught to me is something that I'm going to be able to give back, and talk about in the future. Lo and behold, became true. My coach, Coach Dub, shout out to Coach Dub. He was on my ass, brother. Like, he was on my ass. I mean, this is my first year ever playing football. Like, it's similar to your experience with your little brother because he's elementary school, right? Or is he high school? He's
Well,
elementary
he's
school.
graduated now, but
Yeah. Okay. He graduated high school?
yep.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, kind of like what you gave to him, those lessons, stuff that you kind of you bestowed onto him. My coach, like I said, NFL, right? 81, what the fuck are you doing? 81, get out of your break faster. 81, get off the line faster. 81, get your hands up. 81, be physical at the line. 81, know your route. 81, oh man. And in the moment, you're just like, does this guy fucking hate me? Right? Does he hate me, or kind of what am I doing that, to make him happy? But, obviously fast forward 12 years later, it it really toughened. It really gave me thick skin. It really gave me thick skin. I really am that's what I'm most grateful for. The coaches I had who taught me that, you can't like, you, even at the age of 18, like, you're still a grown ass man. You're still figuring out what life is, but you're still a man. You have to understand that being a man, there's different things that come with that. And number one thing is being accountable and taking ownership of your shit.
Yep.
Knowing when you fuck up, you take ownership of that, you know? And being a leader is it comes with that. When you're able to lead by example and not so much talk about it, but show your teammates exactly what the fuck you're talking about, that to me is pretty much why you want it. You appreciate those tough coaches, because they're going to be tough on you until you prove to them that you're able to take what they've given you and push it out on the field. And Coach Dub has inspired so many people. He's worked with Tyreek Hill, he works with Devontae Adams, and he's a great coach. And I love him, man. I love you, Coach, if you listen to this. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, kind of like, the sooner you're able to get those lessons, the sooner you're able to get it, and the kind of, like, understanding that it's going to help thicken your skin and make you stronger, the better it is for you as your development as an athlete. So.
All right. So my last question.
Uh-huh.
When are you going to give me a title shot?
So I thought you were going to ask, but maybe you weren't going to ask. But okay. So basically, I think you asked for a shot at this WWF Intercontinental Championship. Was that right? Okay. Well, we're gonna have to set it up, man. After I get this hernia fixed, or actually forget that, I'll just do it anyways. Fuck the doctor. His orders. we'll set it up. 100%. I mean, yeah. I mean, no, I love that you also love wrestling. You know, wrestling was my first love. I talked to yesterday's fan, Mark, about it. That's what got me into football. You know, because wrestling basically after Owen Hart died, mom was like, you can't do this. Like she's like, you're not doing this, so you gotta find something else. And they put me in soccer. I couldn't do that. I was too physical. They put me in basketball, too physical, too many moving screens, right? Too many fouls. And I'm just like, I can't do this. Like I'm too physical. I can't. I'm a scrappy dude. I like getting my hands on people and I like doing things. So what
Yeah.
better sport to do it than football, right? And that's kind of, it's great. But yeah, you'll get your title shot whenever you want it, man. And set the date. Maybe at the Royal Rumble.
All right.
I'm about to book my flight out there to South Carolina. Make sure that we have a ring set up and everything. So.
Oh, I can get a ring set up. All you gotta do is get down here.
Oh, I got you, brother. I got you.
All right, big dog. I appreciate you having me on your show.
100%, man. Hey, appreciate you having you on, man. It was great meeting you, and continue to follow me, and it looks like you'll get a title shot and an autograph. So, hope it was worth it. It was great, man. Take care.
You too.